On Osrc News at 7, Buhari seeks APC governor support in choosing worthy successor for Nigerians. Youth protest deplorable condition of Ughelli Highway. And from the foreign scene, EU leaders agree to Russian oil ban after compromise deal with Hungary. Thank you very much for joining us on the news at 7. I am Oyewumi Ayinigbara. President Muhammadu Buhari says the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC that will be produced at its convention next Monday must be an individual that will give the Nigerian masses a sense of victory and confidence ahead of the 2023 polls. Addressing APC governors under the aegis of the Progressive Governors Forum, at the closed-door meeting attended by the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Adamu, in Abuja, President Buhari stressed that the objective of the party must be its victory in the upcoming election. According to a statement by its media advisor Femi Adesina, the president appealed to the 22 APC governors to allow their interests to converge, focus on the changing dynamics of the environment, the expectations of the citizens and the global community. President Buhari assured the governors that the consultation process will continue to ensure that all aspirants and stakeholders will be brought on board. The president also charged the APC governors to ensure that the forthcoming convention to pick a presidential candidate reflect all the values and virtues of the party. Speaking on behalf of the PGF, Governor Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State and Chairman of Progressive Governors Forum said the party must build on the successes of its recent elective convention and the primaries conducted to come up with a candidate who will walk in the footsteps of patriotism and love for the country as shown by the president. They also pledged their support to President Buhari to have a very successful convention. And President Muhammadu Buhari has left for Madrid, Spain, on an official visit to Spanish President Pedro Sanchez. The president's trip to Spain occurred amid the presidential screening of the ruling All Progressives Congress in Abuja. President Buhari had met with party's governors before his departure. Buhari was accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Oyema, Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami SAN, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeniyi Adebayo, among others. President Buhari will discuss issues of mutual interest to both countries, which will expectedly result in the signing of agreement and memoranda of understanding on a wide range of topics geared towards further enhancing the bilateral relations between the two nations. The president is expected back in the country on Friday, June 3. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC National Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has described monetized politics as inimical for election and anti-democratic. Yakubu assured electorates in Ekiti that every vote will count in the June 18 governorship election in the state. According to him, the commission will stand by the obligatory measure of ensuring that no extraneous interference are allowed to affect the credibility of the poll adversely. The INEC boss, who said this in Ado-Ekiti during an interface with Council of Traditional Rulers, said 989,202 voters have been registered in Ekiti by INEC, out of which over 740,000 had procured their permanent voter cards (PVCs) in readiness for the election. Yakubu added that the commission will conduct the governorship poll alongside the Boch Ekiti State Assembly by-election in Ekiti East Constituency 1. In the meantime, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike said he lost PDP presidential ticket last Saturday to Northern Governor's conspiracy and betrayal from his southern counterpart. Wike, who spoke on the fallout of the presidential primary, said he contested on the strength of the principle and accord with southern governors and leaders of the South that the region should produce the presidency. The presidential aspirant regretted that he did not expect the southern governors to stab him in the back, noting that if they had supported his ambition, the outcome of the primary election would have been different, adding that it had, however, proved its political relevance. Political observers believed that Mr. Wike would have garnered more votes in Sokoto State if Sokoto State Governor and presidential hopeful Aminu Tambuwal had not withdrawn at last minute to back former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who picked the party's ticket. And still on elections, as Nigerians look forward to 2023 general elections, some clerics in Sokoto State say the country cannot afford to waste another opportunity to reclaim the nation's glorious moment. The clerics emphasized in Sokoto that because of the gravity of the current challenges, President Buhari's successor must be physically and mentally fit without also compromising intelligence and competence necessary to navigate the country's problem. One of them, and a university don, Professor Sani Sagir, lamented that aside other shortcomings, insecurity has degraded the essence of life to the extent of nobody feels safe while investors continue to escape in droves to heavens where their businesses are not threatened. Sagir reminded the electorate that they have a crucial role to play installing a credible leadership through their votes and warned against selling their conscience for a pittance, saying no nation thrives under such leadership recruitment process. Now, hopes were raised recently for many upcoming citizens with the assent to Not Too Young to Rule bill that Nigeria would soon get young ones in the arms of affairs. The rising expectations are, however, fading fast, with a low number of youth emerging as candidates under various political parties ahead 2023 general elections. Juliet Buna in this report examines the thin line between the reality of Not Too Young to Run bill vis-a-vis the current political dispensation.
Over the years, there have been much agitations for Nigerian youths to democratically take over the mantle of leadership. To a large extent, the continued call for effective youth participation in the political arena influenced the signing into law of the Not Too Young to Run bill by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2018. Some sections of the constitution were altered to basically bring down the age qualification for presidents from 40 to 30 and from 30 to 25 for House of Representatives and State House of Assembly. The age qualification for governorship and Senate were both retained at 35 years. The just concluded primaries of political parties is seemingly a contradiction of the widely accepted phrase of youths are the leaders of tomorrow. Indications are that a big stratum of the older generation emerged as winners, questioning the effectiveness of the Not Too Young to Run bill signed by President Muhammadu Buhari. For example, there are two relatively younger ones out of the 9 APC House of Representatives candidates, Bumi Tunjiojo and Tajuddin Adefisoye, while the PDP parades members of the older generation.
The political process in Nigeria is very, very expensive and very, very cumbersome. I don't think we have the number of youths that are financially, that has a financial capacity to contest against these money bags.
In as much as the Godfather is in as much as these financial constraints, it shows that the power that be, the elderly ones, the older ones, they still don't want to relinquish power to the younger ones. How can someone that cannot afford just 100,000 naira in his bank account or her bank account will be able to acquire a form of 100 million naira or 50 million naira?
Although the older generation says the political space cannot be left in the hands of inexperienced youth, a public affairs analyst, Henry Olonimoyo, opines that experience starts with experimentation. He said factors including exorbitant political structure have continued to sideline the Nigerian youth in the scheme of things.
We need somebody who's energetic, somebody who's vibrant, somebody who can understand the needs and aspirations of the young people. That's on one hand. Then two, in all of the other offices that are up for grabs, we have to ensure that young people are filling up these spaces. By now, we should start eradicating that belief that once you are governor for 8 years, the next place you have to go to is the Senate.
The strategy is this: the strategy of encouraging the young persons or young Nigerians to go to the grassroots, to go to local government politics. They said politics is local. Let them go to the grassroots. Let them go to their ward, to their unit, to their local government. Let them join a political party.
If we believe in ourselves and we believe in the leader we choose, you know, we, as a youth, we must have someone we are following. So if we choose our leader wisely, I am very sure that the leader will never sit on our glory.
As the 2023 elections draw near, observers say the effectiveness of the Not Too Young to Run bill will again be put to test for a modification of the political structure to accommodate more youths in the polity. Juliet Buna, Osrc News.
You're still watching Osrc News at 7 after the commercial break. We'll bring you more stories. Please stay with us.
That was simple now. Call 109 now. Or just dial star 109 hash. Or you can just text your NIN to 109. What of people like us will not get NIN at all? What the any glow one and register. Free.
Abego, how Mr. Fete can join this 20,000 naira?
Whether you be old or new glow customer, collect your whoop now when we say in the hot. Bonus free.
Glad to have you back on the news. The call for Southern Presidency in the next political dispensation looks unrealistic, with the emergence of a northern candidate already produced by the main opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, and with the All Progressives Party, APC, still battling with the process of who takes over the reins from President Muhammadu Buhari. The conversation on the chances for the realization of the agenda has defiled political permutation. Osrc's Saeed Aribisala reports that political observers called on southern leaders in APC to forge ahead with unity of purpose or release the goal.
We thus urge all political parties to follow what will retain the unity of the country and zone presidency to the southern states come 2023.
One of the major conversations that has dominated discourse in the build-up to the 2023 general election is the clamor for a president of a southern Nigeria extraction. At different times, the Yoruba socio-political organization Afenifere, Pan-Niger Delta Forum and Middle Belt Forum have drummed the Southern Presidency agenda. The leaders of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the South-South region have also insisted that the next president of Nigeria should come from the southern part of the country. Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, on behalf of the Southern Governors Forum, also made the same call. The various groups, among other things, have premised their clamor on fairness, stressing that after President Muhammadu Buhari's 8-year tenure, a president from the south is important, considering Nigeria's fragile ethnic posture.
I was there as a reporter when PDP coalesced and it was formed in Abuja. People only talk of the post-1998 thing. The real platform that brought PDP together was the landmark birthday celebration for the former military president, Ibrahim Babangida. It was convenient that, okay, because of the frustrations, the threat of disintegration that arose from the annulment of June 12th, and the hard-won victory by the political class over our military captors, that this thing would have to rotate, that never again would any part of the country hold everyone by the jugular.
To some political observers, the cause may have suffered setback with the emergence of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party.
And I'm sure the elected delegates that represented Southeast, well, it was almost about 100. So where were they? So that means they tilted somewhere else. So it was a popular going for what they felt was good for them as a political party. So the system had thrown up their best. And maybe the Southerners also were not actually calculative to have been able to see to this extent. Ekiti State, I'm sure, had at least 16 delegates, but none of them voted for the only person, one of the aspirants, that's former Governor Ughelli Highway.
While concerns have also heightened that the ruling All Progressives Congress may be forced to give room for a northern candidacy, a political scientist, Dr. Adekunle Akinola, believes the victory of Goodluck Jonathan in 2011 is an indication that a southern president can still be acceptable across Nigeria.
Looking at the APC list, you have so many more people from the southern part showing interest compared to the north. You just have few northerners, maybe 2 or 3 on the list, and majority of them are from the southern part of this country. There are people on that list that can easily match Atiku Abubakar. And don't forget that in 2011, when former President Goodluck Jonathan contested, he contested against Atiku, and he won. So I think there is this non-written consensus in the minds of the political elite that, okay, this is how, so that the Nigerian state will not result into full-blown ethnic war.
The need for southern leaders to have sincerity of purpose was emphasized to actualize their cause, while many observers say that the electorates are becoming more conscious of the political realities. It remains to be seen if that consciousness will be translated to the selection of credible leaders in the nation's political structure. Sahira Ibisala, Osrc News.
Ughelli Highway is a federal road that has been in deplorable condition for a long time. Following the collapse of the highway, travelers now drive through longer routes to get to their various destinations. Worried by the continued neglect of the road, Akure North Community's Youth President's Coalition staged a protest on the highway in the early hours of today, causing traffic gridlock. Joy Pius was at the scene and reports that the protesters issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government to move machineries to site.
It's quite unfortunate that the road is not good again. Look at the spoiled car. The road is damaged. In fact, there is a lot of kidnapping issues that is happening. If the road is okay, that thing shouldn't have happened.
And it's affecting our vehicle. It's still affecting the little change that we are making from this road, because we are using the money to repair the vehicle every time.
Their lamentation speaks volume of the hardship they undergo on this road. Residents and commuters say they have to face harrowing experiences on a daily basis to maneuver to their various destinations. Sometimes last year, hope resurfaced on indications that the road was receiving attention, but that is no longer the story. No signs of reconstruction, and hope is wearing thin. Very early in the morning, Akure North Community's Youth President's Coalition had occupied the road in protest to neglect of the road by the federal government. 21 days ultimatum to return machineries to site and end their agonies is the message they have passed to governments.
The road has become a means of making money for the kidnappers. A means of making money for the kidnappers, and it has become a death trap. Many accidents has happened. Many has happened. So we are only calling on them. We are not demanding for much, only to fix the road, fix this road.
Nigerians' annual traffic fatality rate was reported at over 4,900 in 2020. A major contributor to these statistics is the deplorable condition of Nigerian roads, which are generally poorly maintained. And motorists, including these protesters, say the federal government must swing into action to avert fatalities on this road. Joy Pius, Osrc News.
The Federal High Court in Abuja has granted bail to a presidential aspirant and former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha. It was granted bail by Justice Inyang Eko in the sum of 500 million naira and a surety in like sum. Justice Inyang Eko gave the order while ruling on the bail application filed by Okorocha, who currently represents Imo West Senatorial District in the National Assembly. He ordered that the surety must be a responsible citizen who has landed property in the like sum of the bill granted to the presidential aspirant. The judge also directed Okorocha to deposit his international passport with the registry of the court and should not travel outside the jurisdiction of the court without the court's permission. Similarly, he ordered the court registry to inform the Nigerian Immigration Service that Okorocha's international passport was in its custody. Justice Eko, however, ordered that the former governor should remain in the custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) until his bail conditions were met. In his response, counsel to Okorocha, Oke Amechi, informed the court that his client was ready to meet the bail conditions. The World Health Organization, WHO, has called on African governments to impose environmental tax levies on tobacco across the value and supply chains, including production, processing, distribution, sales, consumption, and waste management. The Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Mathias Somo Eti, in a message to commemorate the 2022 World No Tobacco Day, which is always celebrated on May 31 every year, said the day was to raise awareness of the negative health, socio-economic, and environmental impact of tobacco production and use. She said that the year's theme, Tobacco, Threats to Our Environment, highlights the environmental impact of the entire tobacco cycle from cultivation, production, and distribution to the toxic waste it generates. Moeti advised countries to accelerate the implementation of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which provides the necessary guidance to advance the creation of smoke-free environment. According to her, the framework would create programs to support tobacco users to quit and support for the application of excise tax and other financial countermeasures. European Union leaders have agreed in principle to cut 90% of oil import from Russia by the end of this year, cutting off a vital source of funding for Moscow's invasion of Ukraine after reaching a compromise deal with Hungary. The 27-nation organization has spent weeks angling over a complete ban on Russian oil, but encountered stubborn resistance from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who said an embargo would destroy his country's economy. At a meeting in Brussels on Monday, leaders urged a compromise deal to exempt deliveries arriving in Europe by the Brussels pipeline. Abiodun Adewale reports.
European leaders arriving in Brussels for a crucial meeting on Ukraine. At the start of the crisis, they had surprised many with unity and strong sanctions, but a sixth package of measures, including a ban on oil from Russia, had been stalled for nearly a month because of objections from the EU leaders with the friendliest relations with Vladimir Putin. Even at the start of the meeting, Hungary's recently re-elected Prime Minister Viktor Orban seemed opposed.
There is no agreement, of course. The problem is, that we are in a very difficult situation. Basically because of the irresponsible behavior of the Commission.
The head of the Commission didn't address such criticism, but she too suggested there wouldn't be a breakthrough during this meeting.
We are not there yet, but it has matured for sure. My expectations are low that it will be solved in the next 48 hours.
As ever, the formal sessions at this summit are closed to the public, but President Zelensky's office released part of his speech when he joined the meeting by video link.
Finally, all quarrels in Europe must end. Internal disputes that only encourage Russia to put more pressure on you, on the whole of Europe. The sixth sanctions package must be agreed. It must be effective, including oil, to make Russia feel the consequences of what it's doing to Ukraine and the whole of Europe.
It is not clear whether President Zelensky's intervention changed things, but there was a breakthrough soon afterwards. The final sanctions package agreed, but this is not the original oil ban proposed by the European Commission. It has been watered down. It now covers just Russian oil that are shipped into the EU, not oil that are pumped in by pipeline, an important concession for a landlocked country like Hungary. Well after midnight in Brussels, and the European Commission President, along with the President of the European Council, were back to mark the fact that a deal had finally been done.
Thanks to this, Council should now be able to finalize a ban on almost 90% of all Russian oil imports by the end of the year. This is an important step forward. The remaining 10%, on these one we will soon return to the issue of these remaining 10% pipeline oil.
The leaders here also know that while this action punishes Russia, the economic consequence will likely be felt hard inside. Abiodun Adewale, Osrc News.
In sport, in continuation of the Nigerian Professional Football League (NPFL), Sunshine Stars of Akure will tomorrow in Aba lock horns with the Eyimba Football Club. Sunshine Stars coach Emmanuel Dodge has expressed confidence ahead of the Testy Week 31 encounter at the Eyimba International Stadium. Dodge asserts that Sunshine Stars have what it takes to pull the knot out of the fire in the tie.
There's no small game. Every game is the biggest game. I think Eyimba is a name that everybody knows that Eyimba is a big club. But we are here. I think all of us were equal. All of us were equal in the NPFL. All of us participating in the Premier League. I say the best way to attack, to defend, to attack. But I cannot tell you which system I'm playing. We play as usual as what we are playing. Home and away, we don't have a particular system of play because a system depends on the pattern depends on the player on the pitch of playing. You can say 3-5-2, you can say 4-4-2, you can say 4-3-3, or 4-3-3, you can say 3-5-3, 3-4-3. But when they reach for the pitch, it's a human being that plays the football. They are the one determine the system of play. Then I think that it will be very interesting game. We are preparing for it while continuing the attacks from them.
Eyimba occupied the 6th position on the log, while Sunshine Stars are 3 points adrift in 8th. And still talking sports, Ola Aino and Innocent Bonke are doubtful Nigerians friendly against La Tri of Ecuador in New Jersey, US. Anna suffered a knock during the team's first training session in Dallas amidst the 2-1 defeat to Mexico on Saturday. Lawrence FC midfielder Bonke coped an injury in the game against Mexico and replaced at halftime by Kano Pillars Faisal Sami. Super Eagles will have their final training session ahead of the game at Montclair State University, Page, tonight. And with that sports story, we conclude the news tonight. But before we go, another look at the main stories. We told you that President Muhammadu Buhari has challenged APC governors to support the party's guests to choose a worthy candidate for Nigerians in the 2023 general elections. Motorists have embarked on a youth protest over the deplorable condition of Akure-Adó-Ekiti Highway and have issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government to return mercenaries to site. And from the foreign scene, we told you that European Union leaders have agreed to a Russian oil ban after reaching a compromise with Hungary.